So today is Wednesday, February 19th. The time is 3 p.m. and we are going to open this general work session. To start off on the agenda, we did have the announcement of the 2024 City Employee of the Year. We are going to be moving that to the March 5th meeting. So that will not be on the agenda for today. And then we will be opening this up for visitors' comments. So now is the time for visitor comments. The comment period is an essential part of local government meetings. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. We sometimes are having a habitual issue running over the 3 minutes. Please keep it to the 3 minutes so we can get through all of our agenda items. Also, it's important to put your contact information on the back sign-in sheet. So as you're speaking, that staff and the city administrator can take notes for actions that need to be followed up. And if you don't put your information there, they can't follow up with you. So at this time, we'll open public comments. Whoever wants to come up first. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Ron Tromlitz. June 23rd, 2016, the 2 million gallon reservoir was leaking 16,000 gallons in 24 hours. August 18th, 2016, the city awarded WPI the W49 contract rehabilitation. April 2017, Dave Elder told me that the reservoir was leaking 74,000 gallons per day after installing the liner. Sue Nelson denied this. This reveals that the truth won't be found with Sue. Neil Shepard relating to the reservoir leak, the city can pump 6 million gallons. The city can pump 6 million gallons and only uses 1.5 million. So what's the problem? November 2020, the city hired Mohammed Zoller as Public Works Director. And Sue Nelson was gone shortly. What the city requires is a cause and responsibility and a solution for the failed reservoir rehabilitation. Litigation began when WPI ceased working. Because of the continued work would not prove successful, WPI was the issue of litigation. The city decided to pursue a lawsuit against WPI for failing to complete the reservoir. But preferred mediation. The issue was in March and April of 2021. Preparation for the mediation scheduled for March 21st, 2022. March 1st, 2022, Walker Consultants was hired for the March 21st, 2022 mediation, an alternate to the litigation. Litigation was a trial or a jury or a judge would make the decision. I don't believe the city wanted a jury trial. That Walker needed mediation. Acknowledge that there is a degree of fault within each party. April 8th, 2022, John Waltz signed a settlement agreement with no liability for the contractors in the rehabilitation failure. The denial caused me to contact the district attorney. May 25th, 2022, the district attorney allowed the city to withhold the report, suggesting that they released the complete report, redacting any legal advice. May 24th, Walker Consultants took core samples from the 2 million gallon reservoir. June 13th, 2022, the city revealed that it was going to repair the reservoir with a new contractor in 2023, delaying due to inclement weather. The city acknowledges that there was an error in the winter start. WPI was required to start in October of 2016. The city wouldn't drain the reservoir. Groundwater and water infiltration required that the be a generator, burners, and blowers for 24/7 months. June 21st, 2022, the core sample report was available. This was the report that Kennedy Jinks should have performed before designing the plan. Testing would have determined that delamination was present prior to the designer's plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, it's two little words. And you can say it. I know, being the poster child for the narcissist that you are, that you would rather cut off your arm rather than admit something, that you did something wrong. But you should. You did it publicly on multiple occasions. You owe John an apology, and you should do it. It's not necessarily a sign of weakness to admit you're wrong. It actually could be a sign of strength to say that, you know what, I was wrong when I called for that. I shouldn't have done it, and I apologize. And you can do it. I know you won't, but it would be great if you did. I also want to talk about our acting chief police. I think that he is an example of what we need in this community. I think he's done an excellent job in a very difficult situation. I know that you don't like him, and I am hopeful that the rest of the council will see past that bias and that they will not only make the announcement that that position is open, but in fact appoint the chief to be not acting, but the chief. And the first step on doing that is to announce that the job is actually open, which you haven't even done. So you need to do that. That is just something that needs to happen. The announcement needs to be made. And I'm sure there is some time period that is required, but he needs to be appointed and you need to move on. And as far as I'm concerned, he is a hero for the city and that what he reported. It's clear from the Greenway report that he was one of the people that was expressing concerns early on. And it's so fascinating to me that you read the report and you think it didn't talk about you. And in fact, denied publicly that you or your husband were even mentioned in it. Well, you both are. While your names are redacted, clearly it's there, unless we think that we have other, I'm sure there's multiple police in our department that have a wife that ran for mayor and owned 7 Meineke's. I'm sure that that could be anybody. So it's pretty clear that your husband was in fact mentioned. You in fact are mentioned. And the reference that was made to you was disgustingly unethical. That is not a plus. That's not a plus. That's a mention of you, and that's not a plus. So the accusations or the claim that you're not in it are just frankly not true. And calling you disgustingly unethical is not a plus, just for the record.
Stephen Topaz, I'd like to mention that the last minutes were excellent, really good. What I'm going to talk about today, Ray just started actually, was the kind of overview of the police chief's affair. I'd like to mention a lot of it was put in the news, on TV, radio.
Steve, sorry, did you say your name for the record?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just make sure.
Also, I remember that I was brought up on ethics charges by the administration, full page, front page, a couple of newspapers, was investigated and voted on by the ethics board and found I did nothing wrong. In fact, I did what I was supposed to. Not one word was brought up in the newspapers that happened. My feeling is that what we read in the news or see in the news is not accurate and should not be trusted. Okay. There's going to be another thing that keeps coming up, and other people mention it. 20 rules apply to people from out of town, people who haven't been born, raised, and going to school here versus the people who are in town. Now, it says that the police in one of these reports misfiled a report. We wanted to get ahead of another officer being moved up. Big deal. We, as I brought up, a number of the minutes of this meeting have been a long way from true, and that was not a big deal. There was also on the news that the mayor and John Walsh really thought the police chief ought to go, and as the one thinks it should have been done earlier. Council hired the chief. The council has the only right to fire him. The mayor has one vote. The mayor and John removing the mayor is basically not the law. Okay. Then it was also mentioned in this report. Remember this report, it's done by an investigative company that was hired by the administration, and the project for an investigator is to prove what he was hired to prove, not to find out the truth. So there are a number of things wrong with that report. One of the things, and I'm going to come back to the amount of redacted stuff in that report. It was reported that chief told, educated, suggested that the whole police force go, when it came to raises, to the administration to push their point. That was considered to be a bad job. Well, if you're a policeman being given a raise and given advice how to best get it, it's good for the police, it's bad for the people who have to pay for it. So which side are you going to be on? Now, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to jump to the last two things. The one thing we know, the police is a brotherhood, a fraternity. Everybody's got to have everybody's back. The fact that we have a redacted name that said they basically turned the police chief in, so somebody doesn't have the police's back. The fact we don't know who it is because we're, quote, protecting it, violates the Constitution. When someone charges me with something, I'm supposed to be able to see the person who charges me. That was not done. It was not done in my case either. The other thing is the police don't have a really nice job. And we have the fact that we have a lot of overtime, and the government doesn't allow truck drivers or airplane pilots to work past 8 hours, and they have a particularly set amount of time you have to rest. The police have the same problem, and overtime makes them inefficient. And after 2 weeks, the danger to the force, the shortcomings to the family go way up. Being safe for a policeman is working 8 hours, and that was put down. Okay, last point.
We gotta wrap it up.
Now, this is it. This kind of describes the whole thing, especially for here. The warning signs of a cult. The leader is always right. Criticism of the leader or questioning of the leader is considered persecution. Anything the leader does is justified no matter how harmful it may be. The leader is the only source of truth. Everybody else is lying. The following must blindly be devoted to the leader and never question him. Members won't recognize that they are being of a cult. That's not my definition. That's socialism.
Thank you, Steve.
The fact that we shortcut our police is bad news. Really bad news.
Other public comment? Do we have anybody on? Yes. Adam.
St. Pierre. I just wanted to make a statement about media access to executive session. I got a email this morning from Kathy Pang saying that the attorney has recommended denying our organization, FAFO DDS's media access to the executive session. I haven't seen the reason why. I know that the attorney's just a recommendation. Council can still vote however they would like. The reason for that access to executive session is to be a government watchdog. I think our organization has proven that through the past that we are the sole thing we are is a government watchdog. That's the main thing we focus on. We have the distribution. Like I said, I don't know why we've been denied. I'd like a chance to revisit it after we've been recommended by the attorney to be denied. But I appreciate the due process, and we obviously can keep a secret. We did about the whole FBI investigation until it was mentioned in the Greenway report that our organization had filed that. That's something we don't just throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. We're actually an investigative journalist group, and I think we meet all the qualifications. So I look forward to seeing the exact reason why we have been denied if council does decide to vote tonight to deny us, so we could readdress the issue and move forward. Thank you.
Anybody else on Zoom? All right, so we will be moving on to discussion topics. So semi-annual report from the South Columbia County Chamber of Conference. So Jack Massey, no relation. I know, so do I.
I brought a board member with me today. Darren Wallace with Parliament 8.
Who?
Doing good.
Name again?
Darren Wallace.
He's the treasurer of the chamber here. Rhonda was not able to make it. She was financially with me, but you had requested that we have a board member today, so we do. Jack Massey with the South Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. You all have the report that I'm presenting today. Last 6 months have been another exciting 6 months. Welcome, by the way, Mayor. We are doing great with our networking events. They are being very well attended. Our membership is growing. This time last year, we were at about 125 members. We are up another 25 members at this time. So we're excited about that. Our coffee and commerce events have been well attended, typically over 30 members in and coming to those events. Our happy hours, common to have 45 to 50 people. In fact, this last month in January, we packed the house with, I think, over 50 people at our happy hour. We encourage all of the city council to join us whenever you can. Hoping you're all getting the newsletter. If you're not, please let me know. We're having some troubleshooting issues with that. The email address changed from what we were sending per the program that we use. They made us change some things there. So it's been an issue with some firewalls, not accepting that new email address. So let me know if you're not getting it. I'd be happy to try to figure that out for you. Ribbon cuttings are always another way that we can share the success of our members. I like to remind my new members that ribbon cuttings are not just for new businesses necessarily launching their, opening their doors for the first time. We like to celebrate milestones and different things with our members if they're doing some growth, if they're building another office in another city, if they've had a recent expansion in their current office, perhaps they've added on new staff or providing a new service. Hitting a milestone, 1 year, 5 years, well, in fact, 65 years recently with Richardson's Furniture Mattress Gallery. That was very cool. And even this last couple of months, Wiggle Butts Dog Bakery Boutique was owned by Donna LeBlue, who started the whole concept of yummy treats for dogs and pets. Retired last year, handed her business over to Jessica Anderson, who has done great things with it. Changed the name just a bit, but she's doing some really great things. She's a vet tech that turned business owner, and she's doing some wonderful things for the community and people who own pets, and just really expanding on the things that Wiggle Butts can do and work with other organizations. Ribbon cutting we had at Snoopy Land was super fun. If you've ever seen a large dog using large scissors, that was very exciting. He did very well cutting the ribbon, but again, another well-attended event with over 25 people there. And just, it was really exciting to see a testimonial from one of their parent customers, if you will. I've been advocating for that for some time, to get our members to have like testimonials, people from the public step up and speak. Not everyone is comfortable doing that in a group, but we had for the first time a testimonial from one of the parents who had wanted to share her experience with Snoopy Land. Our last time I was here, we had a team of 2 at the chamber. We're trying to expand on that as well. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out so well. We had some limitations there with budget. So you're back to a team of 1, but I'm right here to help you out. So again, let me know if there's anything I can do to support you. Moving on, we did have a fundraiser mid-year, our costumes and cocktails event. With anything doing for the first time, it's a learning experience. We did get, ended up with some really great takeaways. We're planning on doing it again this next fall, and building on some of those things that worked well, and improving on some of the things that we need to, readdress and try differently. Obviously, Mayor Massey, you were involved in our candidate forum that we held in October as well. That was held at the auditorium in the St. Helens Library, and we were glad to have you there. And I feel that it was a really good representation of what you all stood for, and gave you a chance to share questions that the public had. We had lots of views on our Facebook page with that. We did have that posted on our Facebook page, and I had lots of hits, several people asking about it and watching it after the fact.
Moderator was fantastic, by the way.
Moderator.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll let her know. She was fantastic. She's actually one of our ambassadors. Her name is Mary. I'm going to say this wrong. I'm going to get Lidala. Mary Lidala. And she's been very helpful with other chamber activities and currently helping me plan the annual banquet. So you may see more of her as well, as she may be a board member moving forward. So thank you. I'll share that with her. Other partnerships and community outreach that we are doing and continue doing. Obviously, we always work with Keep It Local, Columbia County, SBDC. They have their Munch and Learn events, if you've heard about those. Free lunches being provided typically from Wana Credit Union, partnering with them. And then just offering these free classes throughout all of Columbia County on many different topics having to do with business and growth and what have you, and success. So whenever we can offer up our building to for those meetings to be held there, we obviously want to do that. So it was very cool to attend the Small Business Saturday Bazaar that you had at the John Gunn Building. Very beautiful, nice place. And then they had a Brews and Bites event in December that was hosted by SBDC down at Crooked Creek Brewery. Even though there's construction going on, the place was packed. It was wonderful. So just like to keep those interactions going. And I would like to see a chamber be more involved, more engaged with GROW and the St. Helens Main Street Alliance. So I'm open to suggestions or ideas, or if there's meetings happening, if there's something that the chamber can be more active with them, I would love to see that happen moving forward. So just throwing that out there for your advice and suggestions. Getting to the end here, the Black Friday sale we have every year. It's the 7 days following Thanksgiving. We once again exceeded what we've done in the past. We offer discounts for memberships being renewed or new memberships coming in. With this last year, we added another twist on it. We actually created new levels for membership and changed our membership levels across the board. So we added a nonprofit. We added a basic level that is suited maybe more so for a sole proprietor business, and then a new top tier level, the Diamond. So I had mentioned in my report that I have a copy of our membership levels here for you, and I do have that. It doesn't include the sole proprietor or the nonprofit. If you want to see those, I can, but basically I'll leave this with you guys to check out what your new membership plan looks like. With that, the new membership plans rates did go up, but specifically with our gold and platinum and diamond levels, we added more benefits. For example, the gold, and moving forward, get free tickets to our annual awards banquet coming up at the end of March. With the platinum membership, as the city has, you have 4 tickets available to you to use as you wish for that event. If you want to use those towards the table, which we would prefer and love to have you there, we would just make a discount on your table price, whichever sponsorship level you choose, and make that deduction on your invoice. Or you have free tickets, 4 of you can attend and see what all the fun's all about. Also, we have a new banner advertising program, if you will. You've seen the railing that runs parallel to the railroad tracks there by our building. We are putting banners out there. They're being created as we speak. Any member that's gold or above can purchase a banner and it will hang out there for a year before it needs to be renewed. 3 feet wide, 4 feet tall, with however you design your banner, your logo, your website, however you want that to look. It's another offer for us to be able to help advertise for our members. It is limited space. The way we've calculated it is there's 11 sections, if you will, of that railing. Within one section, we can have 2 banners hung and have enough separation that they don't seem to run on or overlap each other. So if that is of interest to the city, we would love to talk to you about that some more and see if you'd like to hang your banner out there. We are down to I want to say the last 6 or 7 spaces available. So they've been going quickly.
How many spaces in total were
That
there?
would be 22. Now our diamond level do get a larger banner, so they are actually going to get a full section, if you will. So that would leave 20 total of the 3x4 size. Last but not least, of course, wanted to talk about the annual awards banquet. Hopefully you all got a chance to vote, put your votes in by midnight as of Monday, 2 days ago. We are telling those votes this afternoon. As soon as I leave here, we're going back to figure out who the winners are for those awards. The award categories, just in case anyone was interested, was Small Business of the Year, Medium Business of the Year, Large Business of the Year, New Business of the Year, Nonprofit of the Year, Entrepreneur of the Year, First Citizen of the Year, and this one, which we are very honored and excited to share with people, Diane Dillard Memorial Silver Citizen of the Year Award. So we've reached out to Diane's family and got their approval, obviously, to do that, and they've shared some stories and some things. So when we get to that part of the presentation and the awards program, we're going to talk a little bit share about Diane and the things that she did for the community. So we would love, love, love to have you guys be there. Please purchase a table. You have the information that I provided for the different levels of table sponsorships and the packages that come with those. You could sponsor an award if you so wished. We still have a couple of those to be sponsored. And just, again, join the fun, come to some of our events, see what they're all about. I think you'd enjoy meeting other business owners and local community people. And Darren, you want to say anything? I did all the talking.
It's supposed to be.
You were very persuasive.
Any questions that you might have for the chamber?
I just had one comment, which is, I'm an active chamber member in my other role, and I come in and represent the city at a lot of chamber events as well. And one of the things that I've noticed a decrease in, and this may be a decrease due to that loss of that staff member that you had, but the communication has been really rocky. It's hard to get information about events. And so that's just some word of advice that a lot of us plan our month for outreach and doing those things early in the month. So I would like to continue to be a really active member and join those things. And so if there's anything you guys have in the works for a strategy around communication and how to enhance that a little bit, or I know, Jack, you have been, a lone wolf kind of back and forth doing things alone. And that's another reason why I thought it would be nice to get some words from the board and maybe like possible strategies that they have and what their plans are to do. It sounds like increasing some of the membership costs, maybe that would help even things out a little bit for you guys. Or is there anything else in the pipeline there as far as
What about Jessica?
You can, know more about it than I do.
We do have a little bit of strategy going on right now, in between deciding whether we move forward with replacing that position or do something different. Mary Lidla has been very helpful with things as well, and you may see more of her, like I said, either as a board member, active ambassador, who knows where that goes. But on another note, we have Tyler McVeigh is one of our board members. He represents Premier Restoration Partners. He has a employee who works for them who does their marketing, social media, advertising type stuff. He has loaned her, if you will, offered some time for her to work with me on social media, postings, putting together flyers and things like that. So we're kind of pairing up and teaming up on those types of things. And we're doing the best we can to get the information out there on Facebook is one of the best ways for us to promote our events. And of course, our calendar on the website. I'm gonna be working more diligently about getting everything laid out because we do have like, all of our coffee and commerce are booked for the year. Ribbon cuttings are getting full. More about that. Happy hours, we're down to like the last 3 or 4 that are actually available this month. So I just need to get those on the calendar so people can see that if at minimum, they can look forward and see, oh, where this event's going to take place, the time, etc. So we hear you.
You're
Let's.
only one person, Jack, though, and that's, I understand. I literally watched you run ragged, especially about this time last year. The banquet, so I understand and.
This is a busy time, but no, this is the whole point. We want to hear feedback from all of our members.
You know, it's other, other local businesses too, so.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate
Appreciate you.
it. I can bring this up. Would that be fine? Okay.
Thank you so much.
So the way this works is, you start with the lowest and then work your way up because by the time you get to the platinum, it'll say you get everything prior and then this, etc. Okay,
The awards banquet last year was wonderful, by the way.
it's gonna be a lot of fun. So, it's our way to pay it back and honor all the businesses in the community. And it's not just our members. Anyone can attend. We have nominees and potentially winners that aren't members either. So it's all about the business community and keeping them strong and together and supporting everything.
I was excited to see a lot of the nominations personally. I thought that was
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll see you there this year. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Next on the list is a semi-annual report from Columbia Economic Team. Paul, please join us up here.
Thank you. Madam Mayor and Council, Paul Vogel, Columbia Economic Team. Kathy, I think has provided you with a copy of my slide presentation. Sort of her way of making sure I'm brief. So I would suggest just starting at the back where we have our the CET framework, all of our programs. And I would simply say that first of all, we're busy all over the county, but we are undertaking work in and on behalf of St. Helens in literally every area, every program area that we've got, from tourism to keep it local, and especially the DIG campaign, through small business and recruitment. We actually connected Project Arcadia with a new potential lender today. And energy, which is a major emphasis right now, whether it's planning in segments of the county or countywide, or the substation that we met on an hour ago, John. So I know that the council is not parochial about St. Helens, but it's important that you know that we're doing work that happens here. So I would just leave it at that and ask if there are any questions.
It's hard for you, Paul.
Easier than you think.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Have that many words, like that. Yes.
Yeah, I know, it's tough on the guy, man.
Shocking.
Well, Kathy said, use haiku if you can. There's a fair amount more detail. I'm happy to answer questions or talk individually with you if you like, but I know you're on a pretty tight schedule today, so.
I know you work hard.
I mean, I don't really have any questions. I just, Project Arcadia, you kind of touched base on what's going on with that. I heard you talk recently at the county dinner about the Armstrong, land. So I don't really, unless you had updates, I know you're doing well. There's lots of things happening in the whole county, great things for the county. So.
Well, thank you. We're working on that. Project Spice, just briefly, we literally expect a decision any day. I know it will happen in Q1 of this year in order to meet their development schedule for this new plant. But honestly, I just literally walked over here from a phone call with the CRPUD. There's They are just getting down to gnat's eyelashes on the energy piece. We're hoping they're not reading all the articles about BPA because BPA is certainly a key factor in all of this. Doing the best to reassure them. The one additional update is the first stage of the feasibility and facility study on transmission to that project is done, and the state last week stepped up and said that they would pay for the second 2 phases. So PUD and City of Scappoose did the first phase. We can't make it too much easier for these guys. I know that, you know, Texas is writing them a big check and giving them free land, and Montreal, we don't know what they're doing. But doing everything we can to compete, and every day I'm looking for a decision. One way or the other. Let's rip this Band-Aid off and get this plant here.
Still in the hunt, that's the
We
important.
are still in the hunt. Still in the hunt.
I was gonna echo Jessica too about, it was nice hearing you talk about St. Helens at the city dinner. Obviously, that was my first one attending, and that was nice hearing all of the things, especially that you worked on and touching base, and you got me off the hook because I didn't know how to speak. So, honest.
Anything we can do to help. Well, we've really appreciated, I mean, John picked up the phone and reached out about the downtown campaign. You know, obviously, a number of the businesses are SBDC clients.
Yeah.
They've all been very active with keep it local and those sorts of things. And, you know, it's not easy doing a project like this. And it's not easy being a business in the middle of a project like this. And the more we're able to support the city, particularly the city in reaching out to those folks and trying to help how we can. I mean, you can't write them a check to make up for lost business, but let's just try and draw more business. Let's increase the size of the pie instead of trying to figure out who gets a different slice. So we appreciate the opportunity. There's always something to do here.
Hopefully in the future, there'll be a lot more to do here. So that's the plan.
I think that will be the case.
Thanks, Paul.
Anybody have anything else? Thank you, Paul.
Counselor Gunderson's afraid I'm going to talk more, so.
Not at all.
You're still in shock.
I am. I'm way.
Well, I don't want to short shrift you, but if you go through the deck and there are any questions, please just reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul.
I'd just like to make a comment about Paul and Columbia Economic Team and just how that, you know, city's investment was kind of wavering at some point, whether we're getting our value out of it. We question whether you need to pay dues and why have you turned that around just not only in your efforts, but taking out all the components of the grow and the tourism and regional tourism and, you know, all the things you mentioned there with Sierra's work, and it's been really noticeable.
Thank you.
And I know you really care about the whole county, and that is important to
Yeah.
us as well, just, you know, being the heart of the county, but we care about our neighboring cities as well, so.
Well, we try and do, I mean, it's like with Grow, and we try and do everything with the entire county in mind. You know, you've got population density and land here and projects and that sort of thing. So there is focus here, but we've got a bunch of stuff going on in Clatskanie and a bunch of stuff obviously in Scappoose and wherever we can.
So you've created quite a team too with Jason and
It's a good team.
Bella and Sierra.
It's a good team. I'm lucky.
And number one in Columbia County, that's what he always says at the chamber.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, the next up is the review of the RFP for the reservoir site selection and design.
You'd like us to come up front? or-
Please, that would be wonderful.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Good to see you all. It's been a while. We have two important agenda items for the evening for your review today, and this will be a great opportunity to talk about and discuss and answer any questions you may have. First and foremost is the infamous reservoir. I would like to actually acknowledge Mr. Trombless, is he still here? You know, I want to acknowledge this gentleman for his effort, relentless effort to keep coming on this project. And, you know, I admire his commitment, you know, and his intentions, I think, are good. We have worked closely with him and tried to address as much as we can, you know, he And we want to get a solution for him and the city from the day I got here. So his timeline is really good. 2016, the issue moved forward. Where we are today is we're looking at this RFP that we want to put out is after we have exhausted all our options of mitigating the existing reservoir, 2 million gallon. It's 100 years old reservoir. It's out of commission pretty much. You can pour millions in it and you still have issues on leaking, or you can just do the right thing and build a new one to meet capacity and whatnot. So this study is for the RFP that you see before you is basically for picking up the location for the new reservoir for the city and the future growth. So we had a lot of great questions. We've addressed a lot of great questions that came in. Mayor Massey, wow, I gotta say, it was very, very specific, technical, but great questions. I hope that answered, and everything you need to know about the technical part of it.
Yes, and I want to say thank you for the detailed, I don't know who responded, if it was you or Sharon, but thank you for the detailed responses on those questions. I do read all the information if you can't tell, so I.
Obviously.
But I'm not asking them now, so I.
Yeah, no, that was.
Answered every question that I had, so thank you.
And please, any follow-up, this is a good time. So yeah, this study basically is gonna look at the 4 location that we have got done from the master plan. So first order of business when I came to the city back 2020 now. Master plan was out of date, right? It was 10, 15 years old. How old was it?
89.
It was, yeah, it was really old. So, yeah, so, yeah,
I think it was 15.
15.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
that.
all out of date.
It's a strategic plan. That's pretty bad. So we got this all done and we have them all updated now within the last 2 years. So this is really great, which addresses all the growth, all the capacity, all this. Now with the reservoir, the master plan have picked 4 locations for a future one. And this study basically, which gonna go dig deep into what is the most suitable location for the reservoir. And from that point, once that's selected, then we're gonna go with another RFP, which is a design and construction. So those are 2 separate, but first thing first is we get the location. And hopefully that something can be successful with the ones we have. If not, obviously they will be looking, the contractor or consultant will be looking at a different location if need be, but that's what is this all about. Any questions or any thing we can answer for anybody who has ideas about the reservoirs?
These people do the soils testing for the engineering or just before you get to that point?
So the consultant, and obviously the RFP will basically have all the professionals, right? There is a stage process where we have to create a committee and we have scoring, we have a committee from various levels, right? Once we have the bids come in from different consultants, they're gonna obviously share with us who's their specialists are, subcontractors, soil mechanics, geotechnical, all of them will be within their purview to conduct. Yes, so this study will give us everything we need to know about. Those are gonna be the guiding data for us to support that or move forward or not. And of course,
Discuss costs and plans and things like that,
absolutely. And again, nothing move forwards without you all knowing about it. Once we have the location, we'll share that findings and you can be part of it as much as you want as well.
Out of the sites that were identified, do you have any preference? Is there any that appear better than others?
No, we can bring the master plan up if you want. There's different issues with every site, right? Size and the biggest, I think, concern I personally have is, we have to purchase the land, right? I think we are blessed in St. Helens that most of these are landowners. They're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not an issue, I think, but that would be first thing first is finding the land. And if we find the right suitable one, purchase it, would that be an issue? If someone doesn't want to sell, obviously we can enforce that, but that would be something to, as a risk. Other than that, no, I don't have a preference. And then we don't have the capacity to really pick and choose, the master plan gives you kind of parameters. What's the number 1, number 2, number 3, and then the specialist will be able to pick what is the most suitable. So we're looking at building a 5 million gallon reservoir, which is going to be basically for my time and your time and many generations to come. This will be the biggest level we can put in without worrying ever about capacity issue down the next 100 years.
Mohammed, did you say that there is currently water in the reservoir right now? That's.
No, the current one is not.
I can't recall, did we have a discussion about why we can't tear that one down and build a new reservoir right there in that spot?
We had a discussion, yes, we actually had several
Discussion.
several presentations about that. Yeah, we explored in depth all options on this existing one, but where we kind of came to, the way it's set up in the elevation, right? We explored kind of moving, shifting. There's another 2 million-gallon reservoir within 50 feet of it. When you start demolishing this one, we're looking at site instability, geotechnical issues, sliding because the levels pretty much slid. It will be really a big problem. And again, we engaged with, an RFP. We went out for a study. We had a contractor who came out and, we started the design, and then throughout our work with them, there was a lot of concerns from them where one thing that I remember was said, oh, we're gonna build you a reservoir here, but it might be leaking. When I heard that, I asked Sharon, cancel this, tell them thank you for your service. We're not moving forward, because if you're talking about building a new reservoir and you're already talking about leaking, that tells me you're not confident in your design, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna entertain them. So. Any questions?
Additional comments or questions?
Sense to me.
Great, so and then, yeah, with the RFP, you're gonna see a timeline for kind of like when the RFP goes out, we have to abide by 30 days, 60 days, committee and whatnot, so. In case any questions about the project timeline. All right, so item number 2 is gonna be the First and St. Helens intersection. Where we are today, so the general kind of overview, the 30,000 foot. Mayor, I know you like the 30,000.
Yes.
30,000 foot. Where we are at that, so the intersection closure kind of like the last biggest phase of the project, shutting this intersection down. Once we get through this intersection, pretty much the rest of the project is going to be a button-up phase, meaning we have some minor paving to do, top left on First. We have striping and of course the weather and other conditions applying, that's why. But the overall project timeline is June 30th, where everything's supposed to be done 100%. And this pretty much is really the biggest piece of the project now moving forward, is the shutdown of the intersection. And once we're done with that, I hope we are smooth sailing until the end, and we're gonna finish everything and celebrate the 2.5 years, largest project in the city's history.
People are gonna appreciate having that completion date out there. I think that like.
Yes.
Of
We
course,
had one before though.
We had when it was in December, obviously.
Never
and-
forget.
Again, we talked about this, and last year, obviously, it was a little bit challenging with all the challenges we have with the underground issues. The coordination between all the entities and stakeholders involved in this project. Again, I think if you take a small project, you're working in your backyard, you're gonna run into some issues. When you scale this up to this level, entire city, we are pretty much in every corner in the city.
is there anything that you could reasonably anticipate that may need to be mitigated that could possibly pop up here? I mean, we're always gonna have unknowns, but let's be honest, that's this construction, right? So is there anything that we're watching closely that could derail this June 30th? So
I do not see any reason, absolutely not in my eyes. However, as much as we planned very well for the December time, we were really hit with some very unforeseen issues. And weather obviously was a big one for us. Some challenges with coordination with communication. I can tell you this is still a big problem. You have a pole, you have 4 or 5 different communication facilities on it, like, the Comcast, the Lumen, and getting these folks to come and be part of this project, where if I have Lumen on top, I have PUD and I have Comcast and I have LS Network, every single one of those has to go in kind of sequence, right? And everyone has to be given 30 to 60 days before the second one can move, and then they can go underground. Utilities has been really a big challenge, has really derailed our for a little bit. But again, things out of control, right? We planned for those in contingencies in the project. We put extra time, extra funding, contingency, at least 10%. But then again, there is just the unforeseen that we cannot absolutely control.
So after this, is the plan to have like a debrief on lessons learned? Like,
Absolutely. We have a huge log of lesson learned. that is ready to go. But this, as soon as we finish the project, I think there is not only lesson learned, it has been a great journey for all of us, you know, from council to city staff to contractors. It's been really,
So is the June 30th date a completion date that we're looking at for just the streets, or is that for the park and the riverfront?
everything.
Okay,
Although that's a separate project, but I know, at least from what I know from working with John and Jenny and everybody on the team, that also should be done before. Yeah, June 30th is the one and all for everything.
the reason why I asked is because I know that I've had a meeting with Treadway recently, and one of the things they've already started planning for is 13 nights, and the kickoff for that is June 5th. So we may need to discuss what that's gonna look like if the project is not complete by that.
So we actually, technically, we put June 30th as the worst case scenario. So I can tell you, we're hoping
Let's go
to,
with the worst case scenario.
yeah, that's why I'm confident about the deadline. I'll make sure it happens. We were planning in the April, really, April, May at the most, to be out of your hair. However, June 30th was, because it's the fiscal year, and, you know, we decided to be a little bit generous with the time to make sure, just in case something come up. And things do come up every day, let me tell you, and the curveballs that we are hit with, and one recently across the street here was big time problem, which I sent a memorandum explaining everything from A to Z and where we are with that, but that's a curveball again. This contract amendment you see today is because of that. Did not anticipate, did not plan, it's costing us $60,000 extra. Trust me, there's no way we can ever plan for that. And there is, you know, relationship can be mitigated a lot easier than.
One of the things that keeps coming up for me is citizens that are coming down here, patrons that are still concerned with construction vehicles taking up a lot of the spaces. Has there been a conversation, especially like in the physical therapy, right? Is there any conversation?
Betsy.
No,
I'm
not
sure
not-
Betsy called you.
No, I mean, that was, she had mentioned it here on the council, and I think at the, whatever, she
Yeah,
said something.
well, she also told me that she's called Mohammed, so.
Oh, yeah, but there's other, you know, individuals as well. So as far as the construct, there's a lot of construction. I get it. You want them close to their tools and all of those things, but is there an opportunity to at least allow some more spaces? We're looking at June, it's gonna get busier down here.
Yeah, yeah. So Mayor Massey, the way from our standpoint in Public Works, right? Number one, Public Works is not in the business of enforcing parkings, right? That's not something we do in ours. However, we work with the contractor daily, right? And we talk to the contractor. When we hear about a complaint about parking, we immediately usually address those directly with the contractor. Now, the contractor has hundreds of subcontractors who comes in sometimes for first time, right? This is a public parking, it's a 2 hours parking, right? Probably they've never been here, maybe some of them have. They come in, they park and they do the work, which is, you know, absolutely legally, we can't tell someone not to park because I don't know if you're a contractor or not. Number two, when it becomes a contractor where we know this is a vehicle for contractor, we immediately address that and
Okay.
we go talk to the superintendent, and they're pretty quick at addressing those. And you know, when we, you know, recently, I know Sharon, you received that, you know, an email.
From the physical therapist.
Yeah, and then again, mostly it's coming from there. 99% of the time, it's two business owners that always bring in issues, and we constantly address those issues. But we do take a lot of action from our end. But then again, you know, I think the misconception is Public Works is responsible for the enforcement of parking.
I wouldn't think that you're responsible for enforcing it, but communicating with the contractor, that is.
And they know that very well. We have had this issue multiple times and we go very hard on them. Do not park here. They move.
Physical therapy, the place, I mean, that part for me does stand out just because people are going there because they obviously have some reason to go, right? So when they're having to park far away, that's,
That's not acceptable.
yeah,
You know,
that's.
Absolutely. No, we support that. We feel their pain and, you know, this has been an issue since obviously the beginning of the construction. The good news is this year you get to celebrate Halloween and all the holidays at a different level. And I think the fruits of this entire 2.5 years project will.
Holding you to the July.
Yes,
I'm actually looking.
gonna cut the ribbon
I'm
together.
just saying, because I got
30th.
13 dates.
never miss a seat.
I think we should get one of those clocks that, you know, starts counting like the timer.
Yeah.
How many days?
I
Yeah,
do
the
think,
countdown.
I do think though that if, we are getting to that point where that June 30th date does look more realistic, I think we definitely need to sit down with Treadway and do a planning about 13 nights and what maybe that first few weeks is gonna look like or so on, just making sure that they have enough heads up for their planning.
And regarding that, we've already, just in case it goes wildly astray, it's like the railings don't come or something like that. We need to have railings in the park. That's kind of a wild card. McCormick's already reserved for those days.
Nice. Backup plan.
Yeah, these are basically where we stand. Any questions at all? Anything we can answer? Or help the public know or understand in the project?
Anything else? I email when I have a question, so.
I see an email from you.
The paving will be continued all the way down. How far down?
I'm sorry.
Paving,
For the intersection or for?
all the way down first here, right? How far will that go?
So we still have the top lift to do from Cowlitz to Tualatin.
Yeah.
And we might have a window opening next week, actually. So I'm working with the contractor, so we might actually get that paved next week.
Where it stops now will be
Yeah.
the end of your project. Okay, that's where I was.
Yeah,
So
so
what's that gonna look like when they pull up? The contractor moves out, you're just gonna have a big barricade there?
once
Oh,
the
at the
top
end
lift
of
is
the
done,
street. And the first.
No vehicle traffic back in there then, I assume.
when we have the top lift, I don't see why do we have the fence there? We should remove that. Are you talking about where the,
At the very
What's the
end.
end gonna look like?
It's not paved. I don't think we were gonna open. I think we were gonna put a barricade there.
so that's farther by the stairs?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that will be closed. I mean, there is no streets after that. Why would you have that closed? And that's traditionally has been closed. We have the rail, which is great for walking and all that, but the trail, excuse me, but the street itself,
Curbs in there are in.
we have the curbs, yeah. So that's phase two. That was, on the plan at some point. If we have development coming in the future, that will. And of course, if that's something the council wanna open for whatever reason, let's talk and let's figure out.
And maybe during certain events like 4th of July,
Yeah.
blah, that it could be open for.
Yeah, we had a very creative solution last year with that street. I think Main Street was involved in that discussion. Mayor Schultz, when he was here as well, talked about, and we opened that street for a month or so to allow traffic. It worked very well. It was manageable for a temporary time. So yeah, the options are open. I mean, for now, it's supposed to be closed because there is no streets beyond that point, but if it's something that you want to entertain, please let us know and we can work. Finding a way.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon. All right. Review resolution number 2039 regarding draft revised financial policies. Yes.
Hi. So thank you for your questions and so Mayor Massey sent the questions, I believe.
We don't have to ask
sent-
any, right? She
we
sent
got them
plenty.
all out. And so we sent out some revisions. And I just wanted to make sure that you were had enough time to review those revisions. And if you had any questions on those, that we could go through them if you wanted to. The main thing was kind of putting some criteria in reviewing things like SDC charges, how we go about doing those things, just so that those types of things are clear. And how they're assessed, how we evaluate those and go about those. One thing I wanted to point out on 1.21 was the utility fees rates. So this will be our last year of our current utility rate study. that we'll be budgeting accordingly. And then we will be budgeting in fiscal year 2026 to do a new revised rate study for our utility rates. So we already have that planned out, and will be scheduled somewhere around September and hopefully presented to you all by October for the next 5-year round. Really, those were kind of the meat of the changes that we made yesterday. So I'm open for questions if you want them. You have them.
Have anything?
I just wanted to point out, thank you for answering all my questions. I appreciate that. And then also doing a contrasting comparison from the last one we had from 17-18. This is far more comprehensive. So major kudos on the new revised one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. My staff and I, we went through these pretty extensively, and they're mostly based on the national GFOA's best practices. Theirs are super comprehensive and a little more overarching. We broke those down a little bit so that they're more appropriate for our organization. So. You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Gloria. I think in the short time you've been here, you've done a lot of work like this to streamline things and really clean things up. So
And you're always so calm and
Always my
professional. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Writing all my stuff down.
We are out. So we are reviewing resolution 2037 regarding financial or final draft policy for executive session news media and attendance application process. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. My name is Ashley Wygod. I'm presenting from the City Attorney's Office. At the last work session and City Council here, just the last work session, I presented recommendations for updates to the city's news media attendance policy for executive session. And the reason, the purpose for those updates was not necessarily to change how the city reviews applications, but it was to add in Attorney General guidance that was not clearly identified in the policy, but it was how the Attorney General had guided cities to review applications. And so we thought it would be helpful to add that guidance into the policy so that applicants and the public could see how the city reviews these applications and what criteria the city uses to review the applications. So just an overview again for public meetings laws is that the law, generally city councils and city public agencies meet in public and have public meetings, but in certain circumstances, the city is allowed to have closed session meetings just in a few limited circumstances. And those are, for example, when city council would be meeting with legal counsel to discuss litigation, to discuss real property transactions and negotiations for real property. That's another time when the city can meet in a closed session. Bargaining with unions, that's another time when discussions around bargaining, the city can meet in closed session. So those are some examples. In most instances, the law allows the media to attend, but they define what type of media is allowed to attend. And that's what this policy is for, is to outline that application process. There's been confusion around what type of media is allowed to attend, and the Attorney General has provided guidance and says that the media that's allowed to attend these closed executive sessions is institutional media. And then it also provides some guidance about when a media entity is not a traditional media entity like the Oregonian or the Spotlight, what type of things the city can look at to identify whether a media entity is institutional, even if it's a non-traditional entity. And so that's the crux of what the updates are in the new policy. So the Attorney General has guided that cities can look at certain criteria to determine if a a person is affiliated with a non-traditional institutional media entity. And that those criteria include having a formal business structure, having certain staff with having staff with assigned duties, regular publications, a separation in those publications between fact reporting and opinion publications, commitments to comply with confidentiality requirements of executive sessions, and commitments to correct errors and disclosing of conflict of interest. Those are criteria that the city can look at to say, yes, even if an entity is not a traditional media entity like the Oregonian or the CNN or something, this entity is still considered institutional because it has all of those types of structures. So this new policy that's before you is just outlines that, and it just identifies the process. That is before you to be decided on in tonight's city council meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that policy. And I also just want to identify, I guess, are there any questions about the policy?
The only one I have is regarding the news media for organization, and I had Kohai here, which there is Kohai that reports the news. It seems that there's a singular person probably that reports the news at specific times. So my only question of that is, should it be specified Kohai with Marty, whatever, his last name is, or is it just Kohai in general?
That's a good question. I think and again, we can keep refining this policy as we go and as new refinements need to be made. For example, as an example, Maxine Bernstein, who is a reporter for the Oregonian, she has applied to attend executive sessions, and the city is reviewing her application. So it could be if Marty, what you said, if the representative from Kohai wanted to attend, he would still submit an application. And it would be, in his application, he would identify that he's formally affiliated with Kogi News. And it could be that if Kogi News then identified or hired somebody else to do the news, there would be a representative that would apply.
That's my question. It's Kohai, but
Kohai, excuse me.
But is Kohai, is that an already approved media organization for the city currently? And is that on record? No, so.
That is what is approved as a media entity, because it was my understanding that they have a media, a news show that is a news show that would be considered a traditional news entity.
They are the institution.
That they're an institutional news entity. It's still a representative from that news entity would still have to apply.
Under like a Kohai letterhead saying that they are an official representation of that institution. That would be my way of interpreting that.
Yes. So right now,
Just it.
For the Oregonian.
Okay.
Yep.
yes, because Kohai right now, they have a news show that is from a certain time during the day. And so it would be the person that is the reporter on that news show. Let's see, so any other questions about the policy?
I'm just thankful to have something. So thank you for your work on this and the time you put into it.
You're welcome. Good. I'm glad that we could clear up some confusion, and it's just an evolving process for all cities right now because media is changing and the way that news is reported changes. And so it's good to try to provide some clarity. Also, on the city council agenda today, there are 3 applications for people that are applying to attend executive sessions. And I have provided recommendations. I looked at the Attorney General guidance and provided council with recommendations for how I believe these applications would be reviewed under the Attorney General guidance. Apologize for providing the recommendations so late. I believe that they got updated to the agenda yesterday. So that's not a lot of time. But I wanted to maybe open up and add, if there are any questions about those applications at this time, we could talk about them also.
mean, I looked through them. It looked really thorough to me. I got the summary kind of, you know, why you found the conclusion for each one and they were different. So I felt like you did a good job and I had no questions about it.
I agree. I thought it was extremely thorough and very detailed on your opinion, why you find a certain way.
Super, okay.
I thought it was helpful.
Okay, that sounds great. And again, it is just to applicants of the policy, it's a new policy for the city. And so we can take a look at this and continue to refine the policy and how, you know, applicants are reviewed, but it's important to try to create clear policy.
Is there, do you know, are they looking at any updated legislative change or anything like this year? Is this a topic that they need to review this policy again if something happens in Salem?
I don't believe that there's any changes being proposed to how to the executive session attendance rules or how the Attorney General is reviewing the policy. So I haven't heard anything.
I assume you're gonna keep your ear to the grindstone.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you so much, Ms. Ashley. Thank you. Councilor Hubbard, did you have anything?
Right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Chance.
Story of my life.
Just call
I
them
know.
over there. All right, so discussion regarding start times for council meetings and joint council planning commission meetings. So we chatted about this a bit yesterday in the work session that we had. And there was conversations with staff about, you know, the whole premise was, do we want to keep the time the same? Do we want to keep the structure the same on having the general work session and then the regular session? And if I'm out of a turn or I speak erroneously based on your recollection of yesterday, then let me know, but the general consensus is leaving things the way they are, except for the fact of some maybe potential changes like not having, you know, redundant presentations that are, you know, it's a lot for the staff to do. We're getting the information, it's in the packet. So like, for example, we get the presentation in the packet, then we get the full-blown presentation again, where, you know, we maybe want more of that opportunity to ask questions, right? So that's our time to ask questions. On a brief description of what's going on.
Or maybe an opportunity to add more things proactive to the agenda. Like I know you guys talked about that yesterday too,
Yes.
is that there never seems to be enough time to add proactive items to the agenda.
Yeah, and you wonder how much time, you know, getting lean and efficient, how much time is the staff spending and doing these reports? And would we like to see something, you know, more consistent on a monthly basis that has like a general form that we design, that it has the information that we would like to see that's consistent across all the departments. So we get that on a monthly basis, and then, you know, they could be there to answer questions unless it's a high profile project or something of the sort. But just to kind of streamline it for staff and us so that we're being able to be more action oriented. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
John, did I miss anything from yesterday? You took copious amounts of notes. Yeah, we did a lot with that. So that was one of the things that we've also, with that discussion, had discussions about public comment being, you know, at the beginning of work session here, but then also moving it to the back of the council regular session. We also, with that, had a brief conversation about, you know, work session having at the beginning of the meeting, just as we are now, and then at regular session having specific agenda items, the time for comment at the beginning, and then whatever comment there at the end too. So splitting it up. It was unanimous. We all want public comment, but there's general toxicity that, you know, sometimes breeds in public comment. And so can we create a more positive and inviting environment here and also stay on task?
I like the idea of having comment only on the work session or regular session items and then moving the public comment, general public comment to the end.
I think that's a great idea, except for one thing is that there's no way to enforce that people are actually going to do that. They can just still say whatever they want.
Well, they can, but
So I just wonder if it's, you know.
That gives them two
the
options. That
effort.
gives them actually technically more time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So there's a law that was
I
just.
mean, you can look at it negative or you can look at it as positive.
And there's like, for example, right? I mean, the examples are brought up if you watched the session yesterday, like we last week had an amazing presentation for Hometown Heroes, right? And we're celebrating that, set a tone in council chambers. We're really trying hard to be positive and cohesive. And then, negativity comes in and it dampers the mood. Or like we're talking about employee of the year, trying to celebrate and build the morale, which during our strategic planning session, that was something that came up and it's a priority for us, right? To help. That just creates this negativity. And it seems to be, a very small subset of, or fewer individuals. So can we do our best to create a more positive environment here? We're trying to move the needle in the positive direction, and we can make those decisions, and decorum has been a huge issue here. Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about, trying to enhance some of the decorum and make the meetings run more efficiently. And I can tell you right now, I've been up here sitting on this podium for a long time, and I do not like to be, torn apart for personal things, and that's, things like that. So, but I also want to make sure, like, are we, following legal guidelines? Or like, what are we allowed to, do as far as decorum?
Lucky for us, we have.
I mean, it is a hot topic at every
Yeah.
League of Oregon City meeting. Every single council across the state has this issue.
Public comment is not required. We don't have to do that, right? We make sure we do because it's important. Freedom of speech is important. We want people to be able to express it. Does it matter how we actually construct it? So we're creating a more positive environment here.
So public comment can be scheduled at any time in the agenda. So if you wanted to schedule it with certain focus at the beginning as you're proposing, so items, if somebody has public comment on specific work session items so that they can be considered at the time that or before council then discusses those items, that's reasonable and it makes a lot of sense. And then for general public comment, it's fine to have that general public comment be at the end. So that proposal is reasonable and legal. And
what if somebody were coming up for the specific items on the agenda and then decided to go on a rant about something else? Are you going to stop them from talking?
No.
Just if it happens
That's what I'm
enough.
saying. So I'm just-
all to the end.
I'm just wondering, okay, maybe we move it all to the end then, yeah, because I don't know. I'm just thinking,
I
I don't
think
know if
work
that's gonna work.
session should be at the beginning because there's stuff that, that may come up or whatever the case is, but.
yeah, I think that you could defer to setting out your expectations and your requests and see how that goes. And if you have to make adjustments, you can make adjustments.
It's not really an overarching problem. It's kind of a select issue. And so, but our job is to try to create it so other people would like to come down here and participate. Civic engagement is important, right? So we're trying to create and foster a better, more cohesive, positive environment.
What about we just allow general comments for work session and change it for the regular session? So specific topics on the regular session and then any public comment afterwards.
That works also. So you're saying instead of having general public comment at the end of the work session, have general public comment be at the beginning of the city council meeting?
That would be general comment at the beginning of work session. Comments before the regular session for action items or whatever on the for the regular session. And then any other additional comments they want to make after this.
General comments at the end of the council meeting.
So anything directed that they want to hear that we're going to be voting on or discussing in the work session would be in front. And then it would just general comments at the end for anything else.
That is an approach that other cities take. And I've been with city council meetings and they have that approach also. So that's reasonable.
I'm up for anything.
The other point that came up yesterday is that, during the strategic plan, that we also discussed that, the misinformation and sometimes comprehension issues that maybe, are out there. And so one of the topics that we discussed is, trying to dispel this misinformation. When we're sitting up here and, we're not going to interrupt during public comment, even though some of the things are, erroneously incorrect. And it's going to continue to foster that type of misinformation and culture unless we can just nip it in the bud, right? And so one of the ideas we talked yesterday was, it's not the term I'm sure we'd use, like looking at other names, but like a memorandum of misinformation that stuff that comes up during public comment and so forth, that we can actually create like a memo at the end of each of the council, so it's like, for example, public meeting law for the public comments, the fact that we don't have to have that, right? It's not, but we're doing that or like let me redact that, transcription of notes, that they don't have to be 100% accurate because of the fact that we have a recording, but we can create that memo. So it's a, did you know fact information, put hyperlinks to where they can find the information, because like, for example, there's some misinformation out there that unbeknownst to me that this council is going to create or add $15 or $20 to the water bill. As I sit here today, nothing I've read says that there was any vote or discussion on that, but that's out there. We can create that type of memo put out there.
Where would that go?
So we talked about that yesterday on putting it on the website, like a did you know fact information, so we can direct people, this is not true. And unless we start dispelling misinformation that is out there, it's going to continue to perpetuate and create this toxic environment. We're silent most of the time, right? And this gives an opportunity to say, this came up during public testimony, it's incorrect, and be able to have an opportunity to provide factual information for people. And at some point, it feels like we're going to go in an OODA loop of this until we just make assertive decisions and try to.
I mean, it's worth a try. I don't know if it'll work, but because I think that is from a malicious behavior, not in educational standing.
Correct.
So but it's worth a try.
I mean, it grows legs on social media, but when you can just point people back, or people can refer people back, that's actually incorrect. Here's the information. Here's the links. This is where you can find it on the website.
Yeah.
Maybe it will start, those individuals will maybe start losing credibility when they're proven wrong over and over again on misinformation, that it would be helpful. So that also came up.
And I was wondering if I think we talked about this, but adding an agenda item on like if visitor comments today, we want to do responses for it, on the next agenda, we would have a responses to the February 19th visitor comments, so that it can be put in the packet and then everybody can read it.
Thank you, Kathy. You're correct. Yeah.
So we'd be doing both, though. We'd still be putting it on the website.
Well, and I did hear a little bit of your guys' talk about that. And the first thing I think of is not wanting to put anything extra on your guys' plates over there. I know you guys do a lot of, everything. So, but I think you guys also, when you see the misinformation out there, it affects you guys too that work for the city as well, not just us sitting up here. It affects everyone who represents this city. So I think it would be in all of our best interests to do something like that.
We talked yesterday about being really cognizant of staff and looking at how we can lean out a lot of the processes for them as well. And so we did ask if it would be overly burdensome to do that, or even with our roadmap and stuff. But if we can start taking away some of the other stuff that, especially the things we're trying to do, but it also is going to become, important for staff and that relationship to say, hey, this is a bit much, or whatever the case is. It has to be a two-way street for that relationship to continue to be fostered. We can't put more on their plate, but.
My thoughts are, it doesn't have to be a big, huge explanation either. It could be a couple paragraphs, just a short summary. And it might not even be something that happens at every meeting, but those things that we hear over and over and over again that come up that are not true, it would be nice to say, actually, here's where you can go to find the correct information.
Water bill's an excellent example.
Yeah, that's running ragged out there.
I have no idea where that came from.
Exactly. And I thought I missed the memo or something. So I think we all know where it came from, but I think that it's important for other individuals, our citizens and our constituents to know they're concerned, finances are tight. And when they hear that, it creates panic. And if we can dispel that, then we should do that for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So we talked about that yesterday as well. Is there any concerns with that?
I don't hear any, there's no legal concerns, and I think a lot of cities provide, whether it's press releases or just a thing something on their website that just describes information, new information or news, things that they want the citizens to know about or to be aware of. So it's definitely a really common practice, and it can be really useful. But again, it can have just the resources about who's gonna do that. And so keeping it concise and brief and only when needed makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I think this council up here, I can't speak for all of us, but I think we definitely want to change dynamics. We want to move the needle and start being more positive and action oriented. And unless we're gonna make these bold moves and decisions and it's not gonna happen, it's spinning. So.
So the start times for the council meetings are staying the same?
I believe they should be.
3 and 7?
Yes, and if we streamline the other stuff, well, first of all, Counselor Sendin, that is super helpful for him on that, and I don't think it makes that much difference on us, but especially for streamlining a lot of these reports that are coming in that you're getting. I mean, if we go back to like the Forester, for example, it's like, you got the information, gave the report for the information, but then it's like, there's a lot of questions that came up, I know for me, right? So being able to ask those, it feels like that's our time to get the stuff answered, and it just adds on to that presentation.
It sounded like the feedback we got back from the staff is that they're comfortable and familiar with the format we have now, so that's preferable to keep our current meeting schedule.
With those reports, that would maybe be up to us as an action item to create what exactly we want to see on a monthly basis from the department heads, right?
I think today was a good example with neither one of our presentations were overly long, but they touched on the important things and we were able to ask questions and move on, so.
Well, I think a lot of those reports, like, the senior center and chamber and stuff, we really only need to hear once a year. I don't feel like unless they need, usually they'll come in if there's a need or something's, big is happening. So I feel like kind of condensing a lot of those, to like annual reports. I think some of them are like semi-annual and stuff. I don't know if they're really.
That's my thoughts. If we're getting the newsletters and getting updates throughout the year, I think that's great, but probably don't need to see in person as much for some of the things.
It would be nice to free up a little bit more agenda time for proactive items. Like I know you guys talked about all these things, like just like signage we need to replace the signs that come into St. Helens. Like I've been trying to do that for 4 years. Like when can we do this? So it's like having a little bit more time on the agenda to be proactive would be amazing.
Yeah. John, do you have any input on that?
Well, the biggest wild card with managing time is visitor comment at the beginning when sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 35, 40 minutes. And so that kind of sets the whole time off, and having a 3 o'clock start and then a 7 o'clock allows us to that special session or public hearings and things in the middle like that. It seems manageable on the staff side.
I was just going to add, last night after our meeting, I did a little research on how other cities manage public comment, and there are many cities that have half-hour time limit. It's first come, first serve. You come in, sign in.
Like Scappoose is like that.
That's the order that you're called in, is the order that you sign in and register. And if you don't make it in a half hour, then the council can vote to extend the time, but that's the
And if your name's not
expectation.
written down, then they take the names and then they look at them first before they call everyone up.
So that would be one way of managing that is, it's never going to go over a half hour unless you vote to extend it.
How often have we ever gone?
I say generally we don't, there have been times where it has.
There
gone.
has been
Hot
times.
topics.
Yeah, definitely. There's been times.
And at that point, if we know that there's a hot topic, then we could also, can we also change the time for that specific meeting and start earlier or whatever the case is if we knew that that was a hot topic for that specific one?
Or maybe that, if we know it's a hot topic, schedule a town hall for that. Because most of it's just, they want to have a conversation with you about it,
We saw the town hall piece yesterday.
I did. And I'm still also like, we need to get these town halls scheduled.
Yes.
I think it's gonna be super helpful too.
Exactly.
And then we can talk about some of those hot topic issues
Yes.
versus it coming to when we're trying to get business done. And it's 10 o'clock at night.
That was on the strategic plan for I don't know how long, but that was like the last one. So that's one of the things that we definitely want to prioritize on.
Get it on the calendar right now.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, is getting it on the calendar for having, actually defining that roadmap and putting some actual time dates, some estimated dates and who's gonna do what. So we need to schedule a time to sit down. We can all do that again and just, I wouldn't do it very often once we get it up and rolling, but I think it's important so that we can get things on there. Counselor Hubbard. You're quiet over there. You have an opinion on this?
Well, I think we all in agreement that, you know, they it should limit public comments to a degree. I don't know, it's in the work session, because then they can have comments on what we're going to decide, but in the evening, it could be in the afternoon, at the end. Also, I think that the 3-minute clock, if you're gonna keep 3 minutes, you should have a buzzer at 3 minutes and 15 seconds, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Have a deadline on it.
That is like one of the challenges. I mean, I will admit, it's.
Yeah, it's hard for you to be rude.
Complete. Well, no, I don't have a problem, I guess, being rude. That's not my issue. It's to be honest, it's the, you know, it's the hard part is I've been obviously, you know, in the position of giving public comments and like you're trying to get it, you know, get it out there. And so you want to be respectful, but then when it continues on, at what point can we just have a hard stop? That is the hard part because it should be consistent across the board. So I don't know.
Bell at 30 minutes or 3 minutes?
Huh?
You want a bell? You can get a bell.
A bell. Well, I have a,
That's not the same as a bell.
yeah, I mean, but the thing is people continue, you know, to talk. And so that,
Nothing's gonna stop that.
I mean, we have to,
Shock therapy.
we have as much as possible and that's maybe the decorum and at the, you know, and it's at the end, I suppose that we could just adjourn the meeting and walk out if it continued on. I don't know, but.
And maybe, you know, that's something we should discuss is like, are we going to set a decorum and some, you know, some meeting rules for how our meeting is ran, like respect and, you know, like not using, yeah. And finding out a way, like, and then what happens if those things aren't being met, then what we're gonna do, you know?
Yeah, I think the challenge is there, freedom of speech. That's a big challenge because we, you know, we do not want to infringe on freedom of speech.
Well, one of our rights, I know, I remember also from the League of Oregon Cities is being able to, you know, stop our meeting. And close the meeting. So if we need to, if it gets out of hand.
We're looking at you. We're gonna get you a placard on the front up there to.
So if, I think it sounds like there's a question just about kind of
How do we
guidelines about.
rein in bad behavior?
I think that a good first way to do it is to publicly adopt rules that just identify what the expectations are and why that's helpful, and to try to identify things that are not helpful in public comment and especially things if they're not related to the administration of the city. And I think that's probably the first, and then also identify kind of what the steps are that the city will take when those rules are not followed. And oftentimes just by identifying them, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
That being said, it doesn't always. And so I think that's something that a lot of cities have, and that the League of Oregon Cities does have, they have guidelines. And so can provide some of that, and you could, and we could look at what the city's rules and decorum rules are now, because I'm sure there are decorum rules. I don't have them at my fingertips.
Possibly, could we combine this when we meet with the governing rules, like how we're gonna go over that? Could we talk about this at the same meeting, is to put together that information?
Ron, can you tap into your friends at League of Oregon Cities and get us some info?
Me too.
They say the cities out here don't use League of Oregon Cities enough for their membership fees, so let's use
They
them.
did say that. I heard that too.
That's their own fault. A lot of resources there.
I mean, and if our citizens are watching, if they have any input, they could let us know what their input is as well, if they have any experience with that. Did you have something, Kathy?
Yeah, the other part of that discussion is the Joint Council Planning Commission meetings. And Jacob, I believe, was asking if we want to keep them at 4 o'clock or start them later.
I watched their meeting. It sounds like they were kind of split. Some of them preferred later, some preferred what the.
I like the 4 o'clock time, but I'll I'll
There's
do
no
whatever.
conclusion on, with them. They didn't.
I mean, I personally prefer an end of the day so that I can miss it. The least amount of work I can. Since I have a job.
Okay with you?
Yeah,
Is there?
better than 3.
So split the difference, put it at 5.
Jacob's coming down just to.
Is that, did I hear him? Did I hear him?
You can hear him like come running down the stairs.
Do that on purpose.
I swear he just comes out of nowhere anyway. Did you let him know? Cause he just like, it's like his name.
He just went and called
He
them.
just shows up. Ah, there he is.
Seinfeld, it's a crap.
Welcome.
Like a genie.
Joining. So we're talking about the start times for the joint planning commission. It sounds like there was, like, it was a split group on the time, whether it's 4 or 6 or something.
Yeah, there was an indecisive debate
Oh,
with the planning commission. So they were kind of on the fence, they tossed it around. So the question that we posed, should the joint meetings continue to start at 4 or go to 6? There was a brief discussion of that in December. And so they were indecisive. There's a variety of ways to look at it. 6 o'clock, more people are able to attend. But then, theoretically, it's more burdensome on staff. I don't know, we're already staying past 5, so I don't know if it's that huge of a difference to me. But they were pretty indecisive, so.
so I guess we can help make the decision.
Well, maybe we just keep it the same then. If there's not really a sway and either or, what if we just keep it the same? It's a conservative way to handle it.
4 o'clock it is.
Counselor Hubbard, did you have an opinion on that?
Yeah. No, I think 4 is fine. That would be, someone's gonna make a decision there.
So we can put that on an action item for tonight.
The 4 o'clock, it's just the thing.
The
We don't have to
yeah,
change
we
it,
don't have to
yeah.
Change anything. Perfect. Look at that. You just show up and it just happens. Makes sense.
All my presentations are this easy.
Thank you, Jake.
Okay.
All right. We're cruising. We're actually doing really well. So then report from city administrator. You're up.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So ahead of schedule, we have an executive session later, as we were coordinating the attorney to make sure that it comes on at the appropriate time. So yeah, it's been super busy. Saturday, I went to the Wyden event, and which are typically 20 to 50 people that come to these quarterly meetings around the county. It was hundreds of people, very, very crowded, a lot of passionate people. Protests and everything else, but we didn't get our opportunity to have the pre-meeting where you get to talk about our infrastructure aspect. We'll have that one on this Saturday with the talk about our reservoir project, because we're all in about getting this reservoir built and getting it funded, and in order to make it affordable, it's going to rely on outside the city funding. So we're engaging with our federal delegates, with our state delegates, and try to get some federal funding on the way. And those, once we get it, it takes a while to gel. It'll be a year at least, but it gets in the pipeline, and at least we can have some certainty around the affordability of this facility. So next meeting on the March 19th, we're going to have a special session. You could almost call it a public forum, but it's going to be a specific check-in on the Central Waterfront project.
Special session. Okay.
What did you call it? Oh, public forum?
Well, it's going to be much like a town hall or public forum. It's going to be an issue specific.
Why don't we just call it a town hall? Let's kick it off. Come on. Break the ice.
It'll involve a presentation from the consultants that have been doing the work on the lagoon geotechnical analysis and such, and the findings of those reports, and then an opportunity for people to learn about it. And
We've done one of those before, I think at the old rec center, right? Then I think we've done one
done
at
them
the
here
police
too. We've done that
station. Yeah.
it could be an add-on to a work session, but I think we're just gonna have a standing 6 PM work session of them, or special meeting. Different ways to organize it to have that, but we want to draw some attention to it, so people that are interested in that subject, want to come forward, have a chance to do so. Um, we'll talk a little bit more about Arcadia in a minute, but they're getting closer to their prospective purchases agreement, which is gets them that much closer to closing. And there's meeting scheduled for DEQ coming up in the next couple of weeks to advance that work. So that's one step closer for them getting to be able to transact the property and get moving on that. So regarding Treadway has been communicating very frequently about taking on Community Day and what that entails. 13 nights, the band schedule is pretty well together. The fail safe in case the park's not ready. We are looking at a stage to bring in a stage because we're not gonna have a stage here in time. Like a temporary stage. And just, all the things around that. So it's going.
I think I'm not gonna say anymore.
Okay, I'll let you have some of it. So.
Thank you.
The police station project, this is gonna be a standing issue, and I think it has been mostly in my reports. With the refocus back onto Columbia Boulevard, I've contacted the owner, communicated the city's interest, and we're working with our legal team to come up with some contract terms, the proper agreements to do that. I'm also communicating with our design team to not necessarily spend any money until we have inked, but things with lead items like survey, geotech. We've already done the environmental investigation, so that's an advance. And just those things we can get scheduled, but not spend the money quite yet. So our broadband efforts at the county continue. I mentioned at the previous meeting that RSG, which was a contractor that was selected to work the county, has secured 10 of the $40 million. That's really encouraging to get the rest of that. They're feeling really good about their ability to get the rest of the investment. And that's primarily based off the business case that we've made with our ARPA investment that shows that there's a viable opportunity in St. Helens. It gets a little bit less so to get further out because those less people per mile kind of thing. The dock repair RFP was published after we consulted with the Marine Board for their feedback. That should come back in the next. It's some time sensitivity around that because the money has to be spent by June 30. So turn that, get it back and get it. You'll see an award to one of the contractors that there's a list of marine related contractors that the Marine Board gave us. So that we should get qualified people to respond to that. This is Mohammed and Sharon were here earlier. This is Engineering Week, and so it's National Engineers Week. And yesterday they went to the high school. Our engineers went to the high school. Then the high school came back down to the waterfront and walked through. We walked the waterfront, about 40 students, math, sciencey kinds of students. Just walked the whole waterfront. They were pretty enamored of all the work that's been done. It's really rewarding. I think it's rewarding for everybody. I tagged along with that, and it's quite enjoyable. Do you want to talk about the chamber? In the past, the city has bought a couple tables. This new membership looks like one of the tables might be included. Right now, we're at the 4 ticket level. I didn't get a chance to look at them. What the tiers are there? But the March 29th was the date, I believe. Council wants to buy a table. Some years we bought 2. Some years we haven't gone at all.
I would like to go. I've enjoyed it the last 2 years, but I can't commit quite yet because that's spring break weekend and I'm not sure what that's going to look like for us yet.
I will not be in town.
I'm gonna go because obviously I'm an avid chamber member, but I can go as my Avamere Jessica or my city Jessica. So if the seats are needed for someone else, that's fine. I'll buy Avamere tickets, but if no one else is gonna use them, I'll use them. Or one of them.
I mean, if you're getting, we have 4 tickets already.
How that works?
That's what she said.
We already have 4 tickets for this year. Next year, we'll have a table with our membership, if we keep our membership the same.
So we would have a table plus 4.
This year we just have 4 tickets.
Yeah, next year, our membership would.
Oh, we get a discount.
It seems like 4 tickets is fine. It's gonna work.
I think so. Last year, we had a city staff member who was nominated, and so I think there was a lot of her coworkers that wanted to be there in support of her. This year, there's no one from the city nominated, so I don't know. Boo-hoo, I know, I'm throwing a fit about it, but
There's plenty of time if you want to think about it. So, but it sounds like 4 tickets might be enough. So
Like 4 tickets is enough. Spend more money.
I think that's all I have unless you have questions.
I had one question. I haven't heard anything about the Great Cliff Park, the kayak launch and stuff. There was a grant at one point. What are you talking about?
Because we talked about this yesterday.
Okay, I was just thinking about it and I'm like, we've been talking about that for years and where is this kayak launch? I mean, I want to put my kayak in the water over there.
The kayak launch project it's still in their books. They're gonna do all of the design. The council.
It's in whose books?
It's on the Marine Board's book. So they actually do this design. They have marine engineers that design their own facilities. And our commitment is a local match of 25% to that
Right.
project, which would hopefully be a grant from somewhere else to match. Given the state of the dock repairs and the boom repair,
Right.
they're focus their energy on our docks to get those in good condition, and they're gonna revisit that. And they also had somebody leave at their department that
Sad now.
back delayed it to some extent. But, still on the list, but
All right, that's all I got.
they didn't have the staff resources, but they focused on.
Using your book.
So we're still getting a lot of attention.
Up on the public roadmap. So that's one of the things we want to make sure that's done, especially the ADA access.
That's what I was gonna say. It's also the access to handicap individuals to be able to fish and use the dock and stuff. So I think it would be. really nice.
Yeah, it's a wonderful project.
Yeah, it is. And it's a good use of that area. I feel like that little park is underused right now. It's kind of a little hidden gem, but
Lunch spot. They like to park in the river. So.
more people will be over there fishing and some fishers.
Anything else? All right, so we are gonna go into recess from our council work session right now and 15 minutes. We're gonna go into recess for 15 minutes in executive session under ORS 1926602E. Real property transactions and consult with council potential litigation under ORS 1966028. So if there's representatives of the news media, they could stay, but all other individuals have to,
And 2E as well.
and 2E as well. We've done that.
For a break.
So you know Jeff Cap is here.
Oh, okay. Online. Okay, perfect. Minutes for break. Oh, we're on recess. We can't adjourn because we gotta come back.
Order it and everything.
Right. Normal people sleep. All right, so we are reconvening on our recess for the work session. The time is now 5:31, February 19th, 2025. And so we need to add to our agenda items for consent or agenda items tonight. So the amendment 1 to the PSA for the Arcadia paper mill.
The suggested motion is I move to approve and authorize for signature amendment number 1 to purchase and sale agreement with Arcadia Paper Mills LLC. That's what will be for tonight, correct?
Have anything else?
Just adjourn.
Work session is adjourned.
Got a whole hour and a half.